The other week at Oracle Park, the San Francisco Giants celebrated the 10-year anniversary of their 2014 championship run, and it was only fitting before a game against the Tigers that Madison Bumgarner threw out the first pitch to San Francisco Giant and probable future Hall of Famer Buster Posey. It was a cool event, and when people remember that 2014 run, I think the first name that they think of is Madison Bumgarner. It might be kind of silly to deal in absolutes, but to me, it's fair to say that we will never see anything like what we saw in that postseason from Mad Bum, especially the World Series. The guy pitched 21 innings alone in the World Series, including a complete game shutout in Game 5 against the Royals, and then a 15-out save against the Royals in Game 7. Just remarkable, remarkable stuff. But that was the Giants' third championship in 5 years. And it's one of those weird things where 3 titles in 5 years, that's a dynasty. That should be a dynasty, especially in baseball in the 21st century where there's been so much parity. It's dynasty. I think why it gets overlooked is, one, they didn't make the postseason, weren't even really that good in between the years when they won championships. It went World Series, missed the playoffs, World Series, missed the playoffs, World Series, missed the playoffs. Kind of bizarre. And they never had that one truly dominant team. They were a scrappy team that always pitched well, but they never had that season where they went 162 or they won 105, 110 games. There was never a 98 Yankees among them. There was never a 2018 Red Sox or even an Astros from 2022 where they were the best team in baseball and they showed it. They just got to October and they got crazy hot. They got a lot of random production by a lot of journeymen. Right? Juan Uribe, Edgar Renteria, Aubrey Huff, Travis Ishikawa. Like, there was a certain randomness and magic to those Giants teams, but the core was still intact. They were dominated by their pitching, mainly their starting pitching, but there was one name that gets really overlooked. And he shouldn't, because when you break it down, he's probably one of the most dominant postseason relievers ever, and nobody thinks of him. That's former Giants reliever Jeremy Affeldt. One thing that was impressive about what the Giants did from 2010 to 2014 is that they won 3 World Series, but they did it with 3 different closers. In 2010 it was Brian Wilson, 2012 it was Sergio Romo, and in 2014 it was Santiago Casilla. But their middle relief was obviously really important. And what's funny about Affeldt is when you look at his baseball reference page, when you look at his career, you say, well, okay, fine career. I mean, any guy who lasts as long as Jeremy Affeldt did in Major League Baseball, that's a successful career. Making it there is damn near impossible. Staying there is even more impossible. He had a fine career, sub-4 ERA, pitched for several different teams. He was pretty much a loogie. I mean, he was one of those guys that you would bring into a game to face a lefty or two, usually pitch an inning, maybe 2/3 of an inning, maybe 1/3 of an inning. This was before the 3-batter minimum rule. And then he would just kind of come out and he was whatever. He's fine, solid stuff. He'd get guys out. It was whatever. But for some reason, the guy just shined in October. And looking at his career numbers, what's interesting is that it wasn't just the Giants that he shined with. His first taste of October baseball was in 2007 with the Rockies. October gets overlooked, man. People forget the Colorado Rockies had one of the most insane runs to the World Series ever. They got super hot in September and ended up making it to the postseason after Game 163, a classic game against the Padres. Dominated the first 2 rounds of the postseason before the clock struck midnight on them. They got shellacked by the Red Sox in the 2007 World Series, and Affeldt was a part of that run. Appeared in 7 games, pitched 5 1/3 innings, and only gave up 1 run. Pretty successful stuff. Didn't come away from it with a ring, but that is still easily the greatest Colorado Rockies team of all time. They haven't even come close to getting back to the World Series since then. Affeldt ended up signing a few years later with the San Francisco Giants. I think this is probably the team that he was most known for. In 2010, when the Giants won their first World Series in over 5 decades, he was a contributor in the postseason, made 5 appearances, gave up 2 runs over 4 innings. Like I said, he was more of a situational guy. If you were expecting him at this point in his career to come in and be like what Andrew Miller was for the Indians in 2016, where he'd come in and pitch like 2 innings. That just wasn't the case. I mean, they had a very deep pitching staff, and they also had a pitching staff that went deep into games. I mean, Lincecum and Kane and these guys, they were going 7 innings to start in October, but he contributed, right? That's fine. He came away with his first championship ring. Great success, but it wasn't until 2012 when Affeldt's postseason legend started to grow. The Giants swept my Tigers in the 2012 World Series, and because of how dominant they were in that series, people forget just how close they were to getting eliminated in the early rounds of the postseason. They were down 2-0 in a series against Cincinnati, had to win 3 games in Cincinnati against the Reds just to make it to the NLCS, where they were then down 3-1 to the Cardinals, won the last 3 games of that series, then stayed hot and swept the Tigers. Affeldt lockdown. 10 appearances, 10 and a third innings, no runs allowed, pitched an inning and 2/3 in Game 4 of the World Series, which turned out to be the clincher for the Giants at Comerica Park that season. So he's got 2 rings under his belt. Amazing run. Giants found a way to sustain it, and he stayed on board. They kept bringing him back on one-year deals, and he kept delivering for them. Again, solid regular season reliever, but his shining moment, I would say, of his career came in the 2014 postseason. From a regular season standpoint, the 2014 Giants were not one of the more memorable teams of recent memory. They won 88 games. They were a solid wild card team, but I don't really know of anybody who had them winning the World Series coming into that postseason. In fact, after Madison Bumgarner threw that complete game shutout against the Pirates in the wild card game, most people thought that they were going to get popped by the Washington Nationals. That was not the case. The magic run of the early 2010s Giants continued into October, and this was kind of where Affeldt really shined. 11 appearances for Jeremy Affeldt in the 2014 postseason. That's 11 and 2/3 total innings. No runs allowed, and he was the winning pitcher in Game 5 of the NLCS when Travis Ishikawa hit the 3-run walk-off home run to send the Giants to the World Series. Also the winning pitcher, and this is another thing that people overlook, Madison Bumgarner was not the winning pitcher in 2014 in Game 7. Now, he won Games 1 and 5, but he ended up getting credited with the save in 2014. The winning pitcher in Game 7 of the 2014 World Series was Jeremy Affeldt, who had a long outing, especially a long outing for him. 2 1/3 scoreless innings against the Royals. It was Tim Hudson who started that game, really struggled. They needed a bridge guy to get to Madison Bumgarner, and that's what he was. He was ultimately the winning pitcher in that game, and a huge reason why the Giants ended up winning the World Series. You look at Jeremy Affeldt's postseason career, and you break it down, it's pretty remarkable. With 2 different teams over 4 different postseasons, 33 appearances, 33 and a third total innings, only 3 runs allowed. That's a microscopic ERA of 0.86, and what's even more impressive is that his whip, walks and hits per innings pitched, which I think is a very important stat for relievers. Don't you just hate it when a guy lets 2 on, he pitches out of it, oh, you pitched well, yeah, but you gave me a coronary, that doesn't count. I'm going to call that Jose Valverde syndrome, or any Tigers closer from the last 25 years. His whip, career, in October, is 0.702. To put that into perspective, of all postseason pitchers with a minimum of 25 innings pitched, Jeremy Affeldt has the lowest whip ever. I think almost unanimously, people would agree that Mariano Rivera is the greatest postseason reliever of all time. Obviously, there's the famous meme, which is more men have walked on the moon than scored against Mariano Rivera in October. But there's never really been much talk about who else belongs on that Mount Rushmore, and I think it's probably fair to say that Affeldt is a part of that. Didn't get a save, like he wasn't a closer, he was a middle relief situational guy, which is why it gets overlooked, but in the postseason, every single out matters. You're going to play a ton of close games. There's going to be a ton of high leverage innings. And whether you get those outs in the first inning, the 5th inning, or the 9th inning, they all matter. And Jeremy Affeldt did his job in October about as well as any postseason reliever ever. It's one of my favorite things. It's why I like to kind of keep this channel going and talk about this stuff, because there's so many weird anomalies in baseball. And I am somebody who believes that the way that games are managed in the postseason should be different than how they are managed in the regular season. That there are certain guys who understand and embrace the limelight. There's certain guys that don't. There's certain guys that struggle with it in the early part of their career, then find it. But Affeldt and many of those guys on those Giants teams, I think what made them special was the fact that they had a great team chemistry, a really good core, and a lot of confident guys who were not afraid of the limelight. A lot of guys who got better when the lights got brighter. I mean, Pablo Sandoval earned himself a contract because he was hitting the ball well in the postseason. Posey had his big moments in the postseason. We know about Mad Bum and Matt Cain, and the ultimate example of it, but easily the most overlooked example of it, Jeremy Affeldt. Hell of a career. 3 rings, 3 earned runs allowed in October.